Good morning, my lovelies, and welcome to Painting in Your PJs with Minette. I am Dr. Minette Riordan, and my allergies are a little fussy this morning, so forgive me. I do sound a little stuffy because I am, but I feel fine, and I'm happy to be here with all of you guys. Today is Monday, November the 18th. This is the last day I will be here until after my trip from Texas. So I wanted to stop by and just touch base and say hello. Wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving here in the United States, or just a beautiful time wherever in the world that you are. We are into our third week of our DIY gratitude journal. And something fun happened. I had a couple of friends over to play in the studio this weekend. And on the last episode, I had showed a fun way to sort of quickly gather gratitudes. And I fell in love with this. Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, we leave Wednesday morning, and I have a couple of classes to teach tomorrow and lots to do. So today I will be here, and I won't be back again until Thanksgiving. So last week I talked about, I had so much fun with this one. How can I keep this fast and simple? Well, I had a couple of girlfriends over to play this weekend on Saturday afternoon, and we had cloudy and chilly Oxfordshire. It's clear, but it's definitely chilly here, starting to get that little touch of winter in the air. Thanks for being here, Anne. And we did a bookmaking project that was super fun, and we had a little time left. And I thought, well, I'm just going to catch up on my gratitudes. And then when I started to sort of put a few images down, all the images came forward for this is a week of expressing gratitude for the natural world. So what I ended up doing was putting these images down, but there's still space to write. So as I am on my journey over the next week or so, I can come in and just drop a few words in here or there. A lot of times, maybe we think our gratitude practice has to be long or take a really long time, but I want to remind you it can be really quick and simple and just really sacred. And so I will create another page like this before I leave on Wednesday morning, crazy early, so that I can continue my practice while I'm gone, and I'll come back at the end of the month on the week after Thanksgiving and show a recap of what I created. This was I have bits and pieces of things that I've started and pages that I am gathering, and I'm still thinking about, I'm going to be on the road, what's going to make it easy. So I will pull together a few stickers, a few collage images, just pop them into an envelope. I'm driving, so, I can be a little more abundant. But I wanted to think about what's another way that I could make this a little more portable, a little quicker on the journey. And this needs to fold down so it's going to all tuck inside of there. And one of my favorite books I have been inspired by over the years is this really fun book called Folk Art Fusion by folk artist Heather Galler. I love her work. And I was flipping through the book this morning because it just happened to be sitting here on my table, and I love her style. And I usually love to do it with acrylic paints and my posca markers. And I thought, well, how can I sort of capture this idea, but maybe just with markers, right? Instead of making it quite so complicated. I love this one with the Dala horse with the rooster on it. But I thought, and I'm going to be driving through lots of different landscapes over the next couple of days. So, I'll be looking out for those natural landscape elements and maybe wanting to capture some of those on my journey. So sometimes it's fun to come in and do things in a simpler way. So I grabbed a bucket of Crayola markers. I might just grab a handful of markers to travel with me, or even colored pencils would work for this process. I'm going to grab a ruler here, and I'm just going to do a quick sketch of this page and see what happens if we can come in and add something fun here to the journal, but that's a little simpler, right? So I've been in this space of this practice feels really important, my time feels really tight, and I don't want to give up on this practice. So I'm very present to how can I just keep this really simple. And I'm looking at this image here, and notice that this is slightly less than half the page, right? It's kind of like the principle of thirds. So when we're drawing landscapey images, you don't ever want to just divide your paper right in half. You want to have a little more visual, it would help if I got some lead out of there, a little more visual interest by just dividing your paper a little bit differently. So this is the base of that, right? And then I'm just going to come in, and there's actually another line in there. And I'm just going to kind of freehand this. And so I want to talk a little bit about folk art and what folk art is. And I am so drawn to the idea of folk art. So folk art tends to be very simplistic. It's rarely considered fine art. It's most often created by people who are not trained artists, but that are completely self-taught. Maud Smith is one of the most famous. She's a Canadian artist. Mama Moses, I think that's her name, is another example. Now my page is a much different shape than the image, so we're going to play with this a little bit and maybe get a few different shaped trees in here. So there's a simplicity to folk art that always appeals to me, and also this lovely idea that so I think I'll just make my barn a little bit bigger. It's such a good reminder that we don't have to be trained to make art that's meaningful. And the other thing that is often unique about folk art is that it represents the daily life of people. So the imagery is also usually pretty simple and simplistic and represents scenes from daily life. Working on getting that perspective there more or less right. Looks pretty good. So again, just keeping that simple. And Heather Galler, if you look her up online or on Pinterest, there's lots of great lessons with her art. It's one that's often used for teaching elementary school children because of the simplicity, but it's also a great way to teach patterns. And it has been a beautiful full moon over the last couple of days. We went down to Denver Friday night and went to see Hamilton live on stage, which was so much fun. An amazing show. The cast was fabulous. We had a blast with our friends. And we were driving into downtown Denver, and the full moon was rising up over the cityscape. So simple drawings, simple lines. And again, the theme for this week for our gratitude practice is gratitude for the natural world. And next week is all about gratitude for life's gifts. If you're watching this and you have not yet purchased the list of prompts, you can still do that. There's a link in the description of the video to purchase our 30 days of gratitude journal. And these are kind of like rainbow lines to kind of show the movement of the landscape. Again, not trying to get any of this perfect, right? But just to kind of get some of the patterns in here. And I think what I like about Heather Galler in particular is there's some elements of almost like zentangle in here with the different patterns. Let's see. I'm just gonna maybe break some of these up a little differently, get the planting in there. I love the sense that this is, a field of all different kinds of flowers that's growing. And I'm just going to fill this with color and pattern. It is such a simple, fun way. And doing it with markers instead of paint is actually a great way to get the process started, kind of play with the style that you like and some of the patterns that you particularly are drawn to. I've never done it with markers before, so it feels adventurous. I feel like I need one little something something over there, but I think I'm going to just leave it for now and see where we can get to. And I think sometimes when we go down the journey of discovering who we are as artists or who we want to become as artists, we can get really caught up in perfectionism, judgment, and criticism. It has to look a certain way, it has to be a certain way. Okay, so this might really annoy me if I have to color in this whole thing. So I'm wondering if watercolor would be faster. Hi, Anne. Nice to have you here this morning. I wonder if these are like Tombos and they are just a little bit water soluble and we can get a different look. Oh, look at that. Did you know that? That Crayola markers are water soluble. Who knew? And water brushes are so great for traveling with. Okay, that makes me way happier. Move that color around a little bit faster. One of the things that I have noticed about myself is I can get very impatient with coloring in big spaces, all one color. I love to break things up. Maybe it's one of the things I love about the zentangle method is I get to fill spaces with a lot of different color and design and pattern, and there's a lot of variety there. I'm loving this beautiful blue. So I'm doing sort of a general prompt for the week, which is gratitude for the natural world. And forests are a great example of that, but so are farms, right? I think about my wonderful stepdad who grew up on a farm in a little tiny town called Kiowa, Kansas, and getting to go visit and look at the fields. Yeah, these are just a plain old Crayola marker. Who knew? Right? Who knew? So this is, part of my thing is just experimenting and let's just try and see how it works. And if I travel, I will be traveling with some markers and a water brush. Look what kind of magic I can create. And it's going to extend the life of these markers as well. And I actually like where it's left this sort of dark edge around. So when you think about that theme this week of gratitude for the natural world, what pops into mind? Are you grateful for your garden, for a park near your house? We live 45 minutes from Rocky Mountain National Park. What a treat. Talk about the natural world and connection to mountains and to wildlife and to waterfalls and to snow and to seasons, right? So it really allows that access, but I also think about when I just go walk around my neighborhood, being sort of paying attention and being mindful, right, of the nature that's around me everywhere. Okay, loving the sort of washed watercolor look of this, so I think I'm just gonna keep going with that and see what else I can create on this. And then I'm gonna come back over the top with the black, so even though, it's gonna look very different than this one, and even though it's winter, mine is gonna end up being pretty green, and I'm just gonna move some of that color around in different places. And we're going to see how the Crayola markers also layer over each other. And do I have to get that water on them fast? I don't know. Brad and I went for a walk a few days ago, and it was a chilly morning. And I had that first time since we moved here, that sense of being grateful for winter. We had kind of a long, hot fall. And I noticed after this is our third winter here, gratitude for the seasons. Just really feeling a lot of gratitude for the changes in the seasons and what that feels like to live someplace where there's true seasons, and gratitude for the beauty even of winter and snow. I would not say winter is my favorite season. And by March, I will be sick of winter for sure. But in that moment, just noticing the change, right? And the gratitude for that change. I love how this is bleeding on this paper. Just like watercolor, look how it's drying. We're getting that nice wash of color. I bet I could even blend these or take, something plastic and laminated and put the color down and blend the color. Very fun way to use our Crayola markers that was a little bit unexpected. And again, I'm not thinking about this at all. I'm just simply getting some color down on the page, wanting to get that color down fast so I can get to my favorite part, which is the mark making. So I'm curious, those who are joining me live, welcome. Thank you for being here. If you're catching the replay, post in the comments. When you think about gratitude for the natural world, what are you most grateful for? Are you grateful for a particular aspect like spring flowers? Are you grateful for seasons? Like, what's the thing that really pops into mind when you think about your own gratitude for the natural world? Would love to hear some other thoughts. It's going to be a crazy bright green. Water. Hi, Polly. Water, water. So, what is it about water for you, Polly, that feels important? Definitely for me, I love being near the water. And I'm excited because we're going to California for Christmas and going to get some beach time, which feels much needed right now. it's going to be interesting to see if I can layer colors over to create the patterns, or if all those patterns life in the flow. That's beautiful, Polly. Or if they're maybe I'll have to come in with some paint markers over the top to get some of that color in. Or maybe I'll end up just adding zentangle patterns to the whole thing over the top of this, which would be fun also. But I'm just going to start by getting lots of color down here. And she has some of these that are quite black in the background, and I don't want to add that black, but I get, because it looks like the brown of a field of flowers. So maybe I want something a little darker in there. Again, there's no pattern here, not thinking about where I want any of the color to go, just focusing on filling all of this with different shades of green and blue. So we've got a lot going on in the natural world here. I'm going to, when this is completely dry, I will draw the trunks and patterns up in there. Trunks of her trees. She's got some fun red. That's the other thing about folk art. There's no effort to make it realistic. So Anne says the greenness of the countryside, and it's great when you return from overseas. I bet definitely on my list is to come and see that green, especially I would love to. My brother and his wife went to where our great-great-grandfather was born in Ireland. Would love to get to Ireland and see the green. Okay, thinking. We have any other shades of green we want to pop in here? And again, I love making art on one side of my journal page, leaving the other side blank for, that's kind of fun, blank for writing. Okay, being able to clean that off a little bit. Being able to use this like water made this process a lot faster. I would have been here for days trying to color in this big page. And intuitively, my thought was, oh, maybe I should do little thumbnail sketches. That would be another fun way to do this practice, would be thumbnail sketches. And I don't mind that, it's like this one, it's sketchy and there's still some lines there. No big deal, right? We'll even see if we can blend those in a little bit. This is not watercolor paper, it's just plain old mixed media paper. Okay, let's do, oh, here's a really nice dark one I missed. Who knew there were so many shades of green in a box of Crayola markers? So we'll put this one up along here under the trees. And I'm not worried about all these little extra white spaces because I'm going to go back over the top with a bold black marker and outline everything, which will change it up quite a bit. But this is feeling fun, it's feeling bright, it's feeling, excuse me, like a nice representation of my love of the natural world. But this is a cultivated world, right? And just because it's cultivated doesn't mean it's not natural, but that it's well tended and cared for. And when I think about the natural world, I do think about that, about, how do we really continue to take care of the world around us, take care of the land. There's something about coloring with good old Crayola markers too, that it just brings out that child in me and reminds me how much I have always loved to color when I was a kid. So we talk about, gratitude in the now, but we can look back and see the origins of who we are and experiences of our past and have gratitude for that as well. And so when I think about those experiences, those that really formed who I am, we did a lot of summer road trips and visited a lot of national parks. We always went from Texas to the west of the United States. I don't know why my stepdad never wanted to travel east, so we always went west and saw a lot of amazing things and had amazing adventures. But there were also a lot of long, boring days, 8-hour days where we were just sitting in the car, really not much to look at, especially for, like a 12 or 13-year-old kid, even for a 8 or 9-year-old kid. And I always had a stack of coloring books in the car. And then I would always have a stack of books to read in the car. It's funny, this black looks almost a little bit green. And my stepdad would complain because I would have my head in a book more often than not, and I wasn't looking at all the amazing scenery. That part was red. So the simplicity of this is just making me happy, super fun. Again, when we work on things like a gratitude practice and we're thinking about what am I grateful for and what is the origin of that gratitude, I think about when I was a kid, my parents raised dogs. Good morning, Yvonne. And we went to a lot of field trials. They hunted dogs. They had hunting dogs. And so there was often time spent outside in nature in a variety of different places. We lived outside of town in outside of San Antonio in a place called Hill Country Village. So, we had more nature, a couple of acres of land, like more than a lot of other people, and that was an important part of our childhood, was playing out in the pasture. I grew up, I had a horse, right? So I moved around through the landscape a lot and differently. Maybe that's what this needs, is a little bit of a little horse in there. It's like I'm looking at this going, what is it missing to feel really representative of who I am and what I love? And I would say the thing that it's missing is animals. So maybe I can come back with a little bit of collage and get some animals, maybe a bird in the tree. Like this is representing the natural world. Then that is, I've got sky, right? I've got trees, I've got plants and flowers. We've got air up here as well. And what's missing are the flowers, which I'm going to add, but also animals. Definitely need to add some animals. Bye, Barbara. Have a great day at work and a very happy Thanksgiving to you and your family as well. All right, so I'm thinking about, do I want to add the black lines next and let this get super, super dry? Do I want to even come in here maybe with just some fun stickers to add over the top? Here's a pretty little butterfly sticker. I've got some gorgeous purple stickers. Like, this is, I'm thinking like a kid would think here for this gratitude practice of keeping this fun. Started with, this design by Barbara Heller, no, sorry, Heather Galler, and figuring out where to go next. And what I'm feeling is I want to get the outlines of everything in here, and then I can see a little bit better where I want to go next with this. And this still feels damp, so I don't want to layer anything over the top of it till it's completely dry. So I'm just going to come in here. This is the Fuda Nisoki brush tip pen that I love. And now this is where I have gratitude for mindful art, for what I've learned from zentangle, and that reminder to just slow down. I'm not in a rush. I don't have to finish this in one sitting. One time we went to Kansas when we were kids to visit my stepdad's family, his half sister, who had a working farm. And it was such a fun experience. And did I say we went at Thanksgiving? And such a fun experience for my brother and I to be on the farm. It was so different from our own lives. It was a good adventure. And they had a great big barn. And his grandparents had cattle. He was raised by his grandparents. He always told this funny story about one year they bought a turkey to fatten up for Thanksgiving, and it roamed free in the yard with the chickens. And he always said it was a smart turkey because every night when they would sit down at dinner, there was like a big picture window in this tiny little house on this big farm in Kiowa. And he would sit down to dinner, the family would, and that turkey would come and look in the window at them. And that turkey died of an old age because his grandmother couldn't kill it after having it come in and look in the window at the dinner table at them every night for months and months and months. And think about your experiences with the natural world. What have been some of the important memories over time that have inspired your own connection to the natural world, your own explorations of the natural world? Okay, so this one kind of has this sort of fun. Let's see. Feeling like it wants a little bit more color in there. So now we're going to start to see how do these things kind of layer up. Not bad. So I love this one that has those kind of big, bold branches. And that brown is not going to be super brown over that green, but it's all okay because again, I'm probably going to come in and add bold patterns over the top of all of this. And I'm working with Crayola markers, so I can't expect perfection. So I'm really have to approach this through the spirit of curiosity and play and what's possible with some plain old Crayola markers. We can create pretty magical art with a variety of supplies. and not think that we always have to have all the magical supplies, right? That we can have a variety of supplies. And I like this tree. She has this beautiful blooming tree up here. And so all of a sudden, I have this very sweet, I don't have to go a lot farther, but I end up with this very sweet scene of the natural world that also took me on an unexpected journey down into memories of different times I have been connected to that natural world. Taking our kids to the Grand Canyon. All right. Even keeping the shapes and patterns simple and childlike is also an element of folk art. Nothing is super realistic, right? Everything is very simple and often very childlike. I think it's one of the things that I love about folk art. All right, and this one is going to have some fruit blooming. And I love this one. She used a different color green here to just make some dots like that give the impression of leaves. Because I use that light green on there, I can do that. I can come back and just make some leafy shapes. Again, using her drawing as inspiration, not needing it to be exact. And I'm thinking about this trip, so we will have 2 days in the car and each way, right? And so it's a good reminder to maybe do some thumbnail sketches. So if again you're feeling like, oh, I'm busy and I don't have time for my artful gratitude practice, you could just write a few sentences every day. You could also do some small thumbnail sketches, something that's even, half this size to just write in or capture some little images in, but maybe I'll capture some fun drawings on my journey of some of the things that we see. So what I'm thinking as I'm looking at the color is not going to be bright over the top of this, but I bet if we come in with some jelly rolls, some nice Sakura gel pens, and we can get some of those bright pops of color in there. And those jelly rolls should stay nicely on top of that marker. But then we can just get a little bit of that brighter pops of color. Not a ton, but a little bit. Maybe I even want a little more. Those bright little pops of color. And just a reminder, this will be my last live video until I am back from Texas. And again, this is like my zentangle practice. I can feel myself like slowing down, focusing in, taking my time. Making this playful. letting go of perfection. In my head, I'm like, oh, if I had used acrylic paints, I'd be able to have those brighter pops of color in there. There we go. A little bit brighter, a little hard to see in the camera light, but we have some nice little bright pops of color. And then for this one, I can just come in and have some fun with some dots and leaf shape, and we just want to give it some texture. Doesn't need to even look like leaves, right? It's just the sense of it's a tree covered in leaves. Maybe even we want a few more leafy bits over here. And this is the part where you could spend hours and hours having fun adding as many details as you liked to this. You could also kind of, stop here and call it done. You could have fun adding some patterns and maybe some stickers. Again, like I said, it feels like it needs some owl, maybe an owl in the tree, but it needs some animals added into the field. We can just come in and I like that I talked through some of those memories, because now when I go to write about gratitude for the natural world, I have those memories to be able to add to the page. So let's see what can happen if we can get just some little pops of color in some of these. And notice, she just has lines, she has circles, she has dots. There's nothing particularly, there's no effort at just making things perfect. It's the idea that things are growing here. Just with those simple patterns. Different sizes of things, and some things that are very random, and some things that are sort of growing neatly in rows. I like the orange, seems to show up on there a little bit better than the other colors. And I don't even need to fill in everyone, but I can just have some fun with adding just some little details here and there. So that purple over that dark green looks kind of just like dark green, which is fine. Let's see. You just repeat some of the patterns. Again, we're just keeping it really simple, but I'm curious about, would it be fun to come in and add some layers? And even though this page is simple, just done with Crayola markers, I'm already at, I know they're so much fun to use, and I didn't know you could use them with water, but I'm curious, would I want to come in and add some stickers in here, make it even more childlike, or would I want to continue with, love all these roses. I think there's some fun little, maybe some mushrooms. There's some cute mushrooms. So mixing our media up, some can be a fun way to just add in some different elements. And it doesn't need a lot, although I'm definitely feeling like I want to find some more animals. There's some rose hips. Maybe there's some, see if there's some tiny, they are a quick solution. Maybe these little small mushrooms down here and some taller mushrooms down there. So just stickers in a few different spots, right? They don't have to, there doesn't have to be a lot of them, but stickers are also a great quick solution. See if I can get these unstuck on here. Trying to get the backing off of these is not always the easiest thing to do. So I might just leave them for now because I got to go get ready for a podcast interview. And sometimes with these stickers, if I get frustrated about taking the backing off, I'll just grab a glue stick and glue them down. But I think for my trip, I'm definitely going to take some Crayola markers and my water brush and a few stickers and see how simple and easy I can make my gratitude practice, because I love making it artful, not just having words added. And so this feels like a fun, easy way. So this is gratitude for the natural world, super simple. Yes, you're right, they don't bleed through cheap paper, which is great, especially for coloring books. I'm looking at this. It might be fun even to bring some of this cute little washi tape in there. So lots of fun ideas and places to go next. But for me, this more important than the product here was the journey that this took me down thinking about gratitude for the natural world. So thank you everyone for joining me. I will again be back the Monday or Tuesday after Thanksgiving. If you're here in the States, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I look forward to seeing you all live in a couple of weeks. Bye bye, everybody. Thanks for being here live. Thanks for catching the replay. Dr. Minette, painting in your PJs. Happy to be with you.